Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another knife video. Now in today's video, we're going to take a look at a blade that's definitely not new to the market. In fact, this is a blade I've wanted to get my hands on for quite a while now, but the timing never seemed to be right. But just recently, luck sort of went my way and I was able to get my hands on one of these blades. And the knife that I'm talking to you about is the medium geometric plain edge fixed blade from Maxpedition. Now again, as I had mentioned, this blade is a blade that I've kind of wanted to get my hands on for a while. Now, not necessarily this particular shape or size, but just one of these blades from Maxpedition. Overall, I thought these had a lot of great qualities and looked like a blade that, at least on paper, was going to do everything I wanted it to. It has a typical shape that I like, typical size that I like, and is kind of like, in my mind, a do-all woods knife. And I just really wanted to get my hands on one of these to see how it would perform. Now, if you'd like to see more about this knife and my general impressions, stay tuned. So here you can see this Maxpedition medium geometric fixed blade. It's kind of like a Tonto design, a little bit modified. It's actually a pretty interesting blade shape altogether. Now you can see here that the blade is just about 5.5 inches, but then you have about a 4.5 inch cutting edge because of that finger choil. Now if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you'll know that I typically like a blade for the outdoors in this approximately size range, and definitely one with a finger choil. So I naturally gravitated towards this blade simply because it had a lot of the attributes that I typically like. And the other thing that I really liked about this blade is that it's made from D2 tool steel. Now, D2 to me is a steel that I have personally liked very much. I understand it, I know how it typically behaves, I trust it, and overall I'm capable of getting knives in a D2 tool steel very, very sharp. So this, like I said, is a blade that just had some features that made me very much naturally gravitate towards it. Now, not necessarily this sort of modified Tonto shape. There are a number of different blade shapes. In fact, there are 4 blade shapes and 3 different sizes of each, and then including the different blade shapes and sizes, there is also a plain edge and serrated option for each one of them. So anyway, I just happened to come across this particular knife, and so I went with it, and this was my first chance to get my hands on one of these Maxpedition fixed blades. And so I've done a bunch of field testing at this point, and I have some opinions to share with you, and we'll roll that footage in very soon. Now here's a quick look at that D2 blade. It came razor sharp, very nicely ground edge. Nice geometry. I like the shape and the overall size. You'll see here it has sort of like one of those FRN handles. It's reasonably comfortable. I actually like the overall profile, but I think Maxpedition messed up just a little bit in regards to the fact that if you look at the sort of top profile of the knife, it has a little bit of a palm swell, but it really necks down quite a bit towards the end of the knife, and for me that really leaves you kind of lacking. I feel like in general I want my fingers to have a little bit of meat back there so I can get a good grip on it, but because that kind of tapers off, it leaves me just looking for more. But other than that, it is a nice shape. I love the finger choil. It gives me a nice grip on the knife. It's comfortable. This little mound here doesn't bother me one bit. In fact, it kind of just nestles right into my sort of the meat of my thumb and actually feels pretty good. So overall, good quality control on the blade, and you'll see my fingers just kind of wrapping and indexing in there. So overall, the handle shape on the side profile is excellent, but then on that top profile, they kind of missed it. Now, this is the factory Kydex sheath that it comes with. Very nicely molded, and overall has a decent amount of holes and lashing points, but the problem that I ultimately have is two things. Number one, the way the clip mounts is a little bit limited. This is kind of a taco style sheath, so there is only basically one side that has the ability to bolt on, and if you see, it's kind of recessed there a little bit and hard to get something onto it. So you're kind of relying on the existing clip to do everything that you need it to, and to me it's not the most, I don't know, it's not my first choice of a clip style in the way it's mounted. And then the second thing that to me is the biggest problem is that there is no thumb ramp at all. And I will show you that in a little bit as well. But overall, a nice sheath. It's just a little bit lacking in terms of its overall ability to tailor it to your best needs. So ultimately what I'm saying about the sheath is that because there is no thumb ramp, there's no real effective way to push off and pop the knife out. And unfortunately what that means is you really need to kind of grip it and rip it. And to me, I don't like doing that with a blade. It has me completely sketched out. And especially if you had this mounted on your belt, to be kind of taking this and yanking at it and pulling it is just, to me, kind of dangerous. I don't like it. That has me completely sort of skeeved out about wearing it on my belt if I'm intending on deploying the knife. And I found that so far I really haven't put this on my belt. I've been carrying it in my pocket so that I can kind of grip this thing away from the blade as I pull it out. And again, there is no other real effective way of popping this knife out of the sheath. So in my opinion, very dangerous. Now in terms of the retention, that blade has a very nice overall snap into that sheath. It just pops right into place. There's really minimal play, touch of rattle, but nothing big. And overall, the sheath is pretty well made. I have to say, overall, pretty nice. Right out of the box, this knife is quite sharp. It has an excellent edge, razor sharp. It does a nice job slicing right through the paper and even in some cases taking fine little curls. Now even further demonstrating how sharp this knife is, you'll see that it's pretty much shaving sharp. Now I can't say it's like hair popping sharp, but it is definitely shaving sharp. Now I have used this knife just a little bit on some tasks already, so to see that it's still shaving sharp like this shows that it's capable of holding a nice edge. Getting into the field work, I wanted to give this knife a little bit of a test. Now I know a lot of times you're not going to use a knife like this for batoning, but I figured it's D2 tool steel, you should be able to thump on this thing pretty good. And so even though I'm not able to span very wide branches or logs, it is still capable of doing some pretty good batoning overall. Batoning for me is a preferred method to get my kindling nice and small, especially over an axe. I feel as though it gives you good quality control and you can really get yourself some nice fine little tinder and kindling. Now a knife like this, and especially a tanto, is a good candidate for stabbing tasks. I found that overall the knife is quite comfortable in the hand and capable of doing a nice job with stabbing tasks. I never felt like I was going to slip, and the overall kind of finger guard that it has did a great job giving me a quality purchase. You can see here that it does have a nice depth of penetration overall. Now even though this knife is not hefty, I figured I might as well give it a chance at some chopping tasks. So here you can see I'm chopping into this log and it's getting a nice deep penetration overall with that full flat grind. Now even more with these chopping tasks, I know this is not typically the intended purpose for a lighter blade like this, but it's nice to be able to practice and try different things, see how the blade's going to perform, and amongst everything else, it's just doing some good quality hard work on this blade, so at the end of this I can take a look at the edge and see what kind of edge retention this knife does have. Now, one of the biggest problems I had with the knife, other than it being quite light, is the fact that the back of the handle is very thin. It tapers from a thicker handle to the back of the tang with a very thin profile back where your pinky and your ring finger are. So in that regards, it's very difficult to hold on to this knife, especially doing these chopping tasks. Now where this blade really shines is on slicing tasks. Now you can see that this blade's capable of taking nice deep bite on the wood. It has an excellent edge, that razor sharp flat grind capable of getting right down into the wood and doing some serious work. I find that this blade is very comfortable with that finger choil and is capable of being nicely controlled for most aspects. Now this blade is capable of using not only that main slicing edge, but also the tonto tip. And in terms of the general control, you can see it is nice and controlled, has a good quality edge geometry, and you can do some really nice fine tasks and get some super fine curls. Now this knife for me had a similar feel and resemblance to one that I had taken a look at in the past, and that is the Benchmade Contigo Fixed Blade.
No, that was Santa's helper. That was Santa's helper.
Now I've since sold that Benchmade Contigo and I've greatly missed it, so it's nice to have a blade in that similar sort of size and shape back again. I do enjoy a knife of this type for cooking tasks and eating and different food preparation, so I figured it was a good opportunity to give it a try. Generally speaking, this knife did perform well for cooking and eating tasks, and it's definitely one that I can say I would recommend for those intended purposes. Now I find the best test to tell whether or not a blade's gonna rust is when it's completely lathered in a marinade. You'll know from the very first time you get a marinade on this blade whether or not it's gonna patina and be prone to rust. And in this particular case, you'll notice it cleaned up quite nicely. Now it does have a coating, but even at that, you can tell that it cleaned up quite nicely by taking a look at that fine polished edge. Now this blade's also excellent at general EDC tasks. Here you can see I'm using it to open up some packaging. And not only opening up the package, but getting rid of some of the mess. If you're capable of carrying a fixed blade, I would think that the small version of this would be excellent. Alright, so now that we've had an opportunity to take a look at this Maxpedition medium geometric plain edge fixed blade, what do I think of it? Well, it's kind of a mixed review. Overall, I do like it. It has a lot of good features going for it. Generally speaking, the construction is excellent. The edge is super nice, refined, sharp. I like the finger choil. It's actually very comfortable. The handle, for the most part, I do like, but it's just a miss on the sort of the tail end there, where my pinky and ring finger are just looking for some more meat that would give me a better grip, allow me to do some of those chopping tasks, and overall give me a better control of the knife. Now the other thing that's a miss for me is the lack of the thumb ramp on this sheath. it is, and I'm going to say legitimately dangerous to have this on your belt and to have to yank this out. It would almost work better if you could carry it as like a cross draw or like a scout style, something like that, where you could actually kind of grip the sheath and pull it out. But when it's in that vertical position, it's awkward. I don't necessarily like the clip and how it forces you to mount this. So in a way, the sheath, even though it's pretty nice and is actually constructed quite well overall, it's just a little bit of a miss on the design. And finally, you know, I have to say, in terms of the general use and field use, it's great. It's a nice knife. I like the quality. I like the feel. And choked up with that finger choil, it feels very good in the hand. So, I don't know, a little bit of a mixed review here. What do you think? So, all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.